Feelings, feelings, feelings. Why do we always have to talk about feelings in therapy? This is a question I get asked frequently from my couples, and to be fair, I think it's a valid question. Why are feelings so important? And why do therapists place such importance on feelings? Isn't it more important to know what we think rather than what we feel? Well, this is the topic of our podcast today, so stay tuned as we feel our way through it. Welcome to Trauma-Free Relationship. I'm Tom Philp, your host, and as a therapist, I've spent over 10,000 hours helping couples work through their trauma so they can repair ruptures, heal their wounds, and communicate from a place of wholeness and connection. Let's get started. Okay, well, as I said in the opening, we're going to talk about feelings today, and we're not going to feel them so much as talk about them and really try to understand and put them in context. Why are feelings so important in therapy and really in life in general? What is the importance about feelings? Well, I think we can break it down into three different areas that make feelings so important. So let's just dive in and talk about that. Well, first of all, feelings are your subjective experience. What does that mean? Well, it means it is a collection of all of your experiences and what you've come to believe about yourself and about others and about the world. And so that is subjective because sometimes it's only known to you. It's not objective, meaning it's not something that can always be readily seen or known by others. So when we talk about feelings, the first thing we're doing is we're talking about somebody's interior life, their inner life. What do you feel about this? What do you feel about that? How do you feel about the state of politics? How do you feel about the state of your partner? Those are big, open, and broad questions because what we're essentially asking when we ask, how does that make you feel? The standard line, so to speak, is what is your personal narrative that you constructed about your interactions, your experiences, your place in the context of what we're talking about right now. And often that context is this relationship. So when I have couples on the couch and I'll say, what feelings come up for you when your partner says that? It's not because I just want any random feeling. I want to know what's happening inside them, what's happening in their body as they experience their partner in this moment. So the first thing we're talking about is the subjective experience, and that's why feelings are so important. It's our personal narrative that we have constructed about our experiences. And I should add here, it's about our collection of experiences. It's not always about what we experience in the moment or in this one isolated incident. Our feelings point to a larger collection of experiences that help us make sense of our world, and we'll get to that here in just a second, and it provides meaning for that. So when we talk about subjective experience, we're not talking about facts or objective reality. Yes, we can both point to this chair that's next to me in the office, and we can all agree that it's a chair, because from a societal standpoint, we've chosen to call that type of furniture a chair. But our subjective experience of that chair is very different. Some people might look at that chair and think, oh, I can't stand that pattern. That's an ugly pattern. Some people might look at it and go, oh, I love that. The vibrant, bold colors. That looks wonderful. Some people might sit in the chair and think, oh, this is the most uncomfortable chair. I hate this chair. Or they might sit in the chair and go, oh my gosh, this is so comfortable. I could stay here all day. The same thing about the couch. When couples come in and they sit on my couch, most people come in, they say they really like the couch. It's very comfortable. I've had some people come in and say, this is really an uncomfortable couch. So that is all subjective experience that they are sharing with me. So objectively, we can all look at that couch and say, yes, this is what we call that type of furniture, that structure. But subjectively, we can have a very different experience of that. So the second reason that feelings are so important is because feelings provide the deeper meanings of our life. They lead us to discover things about ourselves we may not know and things about ourselves that others may not know, including our core beliefs or even our personal truths that we hold about ourselves, others, and the world. And the way we protect against those beliefs through our defenses as well. So the deeper meanings is often what we're getting to, and obviously a lot of that is cognitive. But you can't just intellectualize your beliefs. You've got to feel or be impassioned by your core beliefs. And to do that, you have to go through your feelings to get there. So yes, oftentimes we start with feelings, and in addition, we're really wanting to look at the deeper meanings that those feelings hold for you. So when I ask a couple or a partner, what comes up for you right now? What feelings arise for you in your body when you hear your partner say that? They might say, well, it makes me feel really sad for them. And I don't want them to hurt. And knowing that they go to this dark place every time we get into a fight, or they're scared it's going to be the very end of the relationship, that makes me feel really sad. And so I'll say, well, where do you feel that sadness in your body? They'll say, oh, right here in my heart. I feel it here in my heart. And I'll say, well, what does that feeling mean to you? And they might say something like, well, it just means that we've got to break this cycle together. It means that we've got to get back to a place of hope. Or it means that we've got to fix this and heal, and I've got a part to play in this as well. It's not just my partner. I don't want them to feel sad or feel like they walk on eggshells around me. That's not what I want my partner to think of me. And so the deeper meanings can lie beneath the feelings, but we've got to get to those core feelings first in order to be able to understand those deeper meanings. And finally, the third thing I think is important to understand when we ask about feelings is that our feelings are not always accurate of reality. Again, they are a subjective experience that we blend with other experiences to create a personal narrative, but it doesn't always match reality. Let me give you an example. When I talk to a partner and ask what feelings come up for them, they might interpret their feelings to mean that their partner is just one step away from leaving the relationship. Now, their partner may not have that intention. Their partner may not be feeling that themselves. They might be frustrated. They might be upset that they keep getting caught in the cycle, but it's not necessarily because they're ready to bolt from the relationship. So this fear of abandonment is not always indicative of reality, of the other people around us and their motives and their intentions. Again, it is subjective. So listening to our feelings, listening to the deeper meanings of those feelings tells us something way more important about ourselves in relation to what's going on with us, an event or an experience we're going through, than it really does about other people. And I think that's really important to keep that in mind. Again, because feelings are so subjective, they're a window or a door into our inner life to help us understand, why would I interpret things that way? Why do I see it or feel this way about my partner? Have I been triggered? Is this my trauma coming back up for me? Because that's very, very common when we talk about feelings and we talk about being triggered. Oftentimes what happens is those subjective fears come back up of being re-traumatized. We put back up our walls, and yet we look around and think everybody around us is to blame and not those latent feelings within us because our trauma's been triggered. So it's not always indicative of what is happening to us. Now, I want to talk just a little bit because this is where it gets tricky. When I ask people, what do you feel or what feelings are coming up for you right now? Sometimes they'll tell me the most immediate feeling that they have. Well, I'm angry. So, oh yeah, I can see that. I get that. And I'll validate that anger. I'm sure it's very frustrating getting caught in the cycle. That cycle is just taking you guys and just throwing you around the room. It's really dominating the relationship right now. I can certainly understand why you're angry about the cycle as you guys are getting caught in over and over and over. Is there any other feelings you're aware of? And then what I'm trying to get at is the basic emotions or basic feelings we have. And as human beings, they're not infinite. Our basic emotions really are very simple. They're anger, sadness, joy, fear, surprise, and disgust. Those are our basic emotions. Now, when we start talking about fear of rejection or fear of abandonment, those are not basic emotions. Those are actually a collection of emotions with thoughts. But when we talk about your basic core emotions that we actually hold and feel within our body, there's only a few that we can really pick from. And to be honest, I even boil them down to less than the 6. I boil them down to 4. 4 basic emotions: anger, sadness, fear, and joy. Surprise and disgust aren't really emotions that we have very often in a relationship. We can be disgusted by something our partner has done, and we can certainly be surprised by something they've done. But on a day-to-day basis, really what we feel is either a sense of anger, sadness, joy, or fear. And so what's important to know is that with these basic emotions, we can use one emotion to protect a more vulnerable emotion. So we can use anger to mask sadness, or maybe we use sadness to mask anger. We use fear to mask sadness, or even sadness or anger to mask joy. So any of these basic emotions, we can use one emotion to mask or protect a more vulnerable emotion. And this is where our deeper meanings and subjective experiences come into play, because it's really important for us to know that we can use our feelings as a matter of defense, as protection against a more vulnerable emotion that more often than not has been taught to us, or we've had experiences that are more scary, and we have more difficulty letting ourselves feel it and go there than we do otherwise. For example, anger often is a secondary emotion. Not always. Sometimes we can be angry and outraged by something that happens, an injustice, or somebody treating us a certain way. When we feel disrespected, we feel violated, we feel wronged for some reason. But a healthy style of anger is not an outrage. It's not I'm losing control and screaming at the top of my voice. That is a protective anger. That is not a healthy anger. A basic anger looks more like assertiveness. It looks more like, hey, wait a minute, you've got me wrong here. This is not right. It's setting a boundary or standing up for ourselves, not where we're out of control, but whether we're very much in control. We've stayed within the window of tolerance. We're letting ourselves feel that sense of frustration and anger, so it's not overtaking us. We haven't been triggered into fight or flight, and yet we're able to draw on that anger to set a better boundary or to advocate for ourselves. Now, we can also use anger to protect another vulnerable emotion, like, for example, sadness. Maybe we grew up in a family where we weren't allowed to be sad. We had to put on a smile. We had to pretend. We didn't talk about things that were wrong. We simply just smiled our way through them. And so oftentimes people can, when they feel sad, when they start to get in touch with that emotion, they'll quickly move to another emotion, like maybe fear or anger, as I've mentioned before. Because internally, it's like we have a phobia to one emotion. And so we'll quickly move to a different emotion instead of staying and letting ourselves feel through that primary emotion. So we've got basic emotions, but understand that when you're exploring your feelings and the related meanings to them, keep in mind that it's not always the first feeling that you have. There may be deeper meanings there. There may be something that you felt, even if it was just for a nanosecond, before that secondary emotion, before that defensive emotion, there may have been that tinge of, oh, well, I felt this little tinge in my heart. I wonder if that was sadness right before I went to anger. So when we're exploring these feelings, I want to give you some guidelines to help. Because as you listen to this podcast, you're probably thinking, how do I use my emotions? What is my emotional life like? How do I help regulate my emotions? Do I pay attention enough to them to understand the deeper meanings about my experience in any given situation? So the first thing I would say is pay attention to your body. Notice the physical sensations. This is usually very easy for more anxious attached people. It can be much more difficult for the more avoidant because oftentimes they turn off their emotions and they have not been allowed to feel their emotions in their body. But the question is, where do you feel the emotion in your body? Where does that reside? Is it a tightness in your chest, a knot in your stomach, or a racing heart? So can you then identify the physical sensation of that? Oh, I feel this knot in my stomach. Like there's this like something bad's going to happen, but I can't identify what that bad thing is. It's like everything's okay, and yet I've still got this knot in my stomach I can't get rid of. Well, that's more often than not some kind of anxiety or fear that you're feeling. But if you're not allowing yourself to feel that through and explore that, then chances are you're going to miss it. You're going to go to another type of emotion. So the first thing is pay attention to your body, and can you feel any sensations in your body? Secondly, label your emotion. Instead of just I feel bad, try to pinpoint the basic emotion. Do I feel happy? That's joy. Do I feel a sense of anger, sadness, or fear? I feel sad. I feel anxious. I feel angry. Because sometimes even labeling our emotion can help us really explore the deeper meanings. And then secondly, not only should you label it, but validate it. Okay, I'm feeling anxious. I feel this knot in my stomach, and that's okay. This is where I am in this moment, and it's okay for me to be right here. Don't try to talk yourself out of your emotion. Don't try to talk yourself out of feeling what you feel or dismiss it or downplay it. Chances are you've had plenty of people in your life already do that for you, tell you you shouldn't be feeling what you are feeling. So you have to be your own best parent here in some ways and say, okay, I'm feeling anxious. I feel this knot in my stomach. It's not going away. It's just okay. It's okay that I'm here right now, and this is all right. And then finally, how can we express the related meanings of that feeling? Well, first of all, we can certainly talk to somebody. You can go to your partner and say, hey, can I talk to you for a second? There's some weird stuff that's been going on for me, and I don't know why. I'm just not in a great place right now. I've got this knot in my stomach. It feels really anxious, but I can't identify anything bad that's actually happened, and it's just not going away for me. Or you can journal as a way to express it. Write down, what is this feeling telling me? If this feeling had a voice, what would it say? What would it say to me? Try putting it in a chair across from you. Take this anxiety and put it in a chair and say, okay, anxiety, what are you trying to tell me? What's going on with you? Why are you so worked up right now inside me? What does this mean? And then, of course, any kind of creative expression could be helpful. Exploring it in music, writing a song, or painting, or drawing, or writing some poetry. Anything that helps you sort of express what these meanings are. Our best songwriters, our best poets in the world, in the history of the world, have been able to interpret the feelings that they've had in a creative way and then put it out there for others to be able to relate to. That's why we relate so much to songs, to poetry, to writing, to dance, so on and so forth, is because we see something in it that we've experienced ourselves. So this is a little example of why feelings are so important And if you have a therapist, maybe this will help shine a little bit of light on why your therapist is always asking about what's coming up for you right now. What is it? What's that feeling in your body? Where do you feel that? Because once you let yourself get in touch with that feeling, that basic core feeling, then you can really begin to explore what it means to you and how to use that information. Until then, it's all very unclear. And what we want is clarity around our feelings. So our thoughts and our feelings can be in sync, and then we can act on that information and advocate for ourselves in the best ways possible. Hey, I hope you enjoyed this episode today. As always, thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thank you for listening to Trauma Free Relationship, a podcast for the healing of attachment trauma. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, or our website at traumafreerelationship.com. Be sure to look for our next episode on your favorite streaming service.